Okay, everybody. Welcome to the first session after the keynote. It's always a ton of fun to, follow the keynote and how great Juan did. My name is John Moore, and we're going to talk today for the next 60 minutes about Copilot Agents and some of the things that we can do to get started with agents, but also start thinking through how we're going to manage them into the future and kind of deal with agents. Before we get started, I want to thank all of our sponsors. As Adam said up on stage, this is totally community-focused, community-based. So the sponsors actually make this happen. It's not, to lift or augment or, pay people to do things. It's actually book this place and be able to run these sessions. Now, I am what is called a Logi Lumi. So I'm one of the influencers in Logitech that one of the perks is we get to give things away. So there's several of us. If you look at the Microsoft MVPs and the Microsoft employees who are speaking at the conference, we are getting some devices to give away. And I have 3 of them. So if you scan the QR code, that's just a public form. It is anonymous. You just need to put in your name. I'm not going to do anything with it because it's just anonymous. And then at the end, we're going to do something really meta. I created an agent that is going to pick the winner. So I was creating that during the keynote. And we've got one Logi dock, it's like a $400 dock, goes on your desk. It, powers your laptop, has, I think, 7 or 8 different outputs or inputs on it. I have one. It is fantastic. And then I've got 2 of the wireless earbuds, and they're all Microsoft Teams certified, and I believe Zoom and Google Meet certified as well. So a little bit about me. My name is John Moore. I'm an enterprise architect at EY. I've been with EY for 3 years now. I had my anniversary last week, actually, at EY. Before that, I worked in healthcare technology, and I've got 18 years in kind of end user computing. So I've gone from being the Mac guy, on day one at Cerner, they handed me a Mac and were like, figure out how to get this on the network and figure out how to make it work here. And that started my journey in end user computing. And since then, I worked for about a decade on Citrix Zen Desktop, doing a lot of VDI, mobile management, got into collaboration space, and I've been doing Microsoft 365 ever since. And now at EY as an enterprise architect, I do a lot of our technology strategy with collaboration and live events, live streaming technology as well. I'm a 5-time Microsoft MVP and M365, and now in the new category, M365 Copilot. You can find me on YouTube, as well as I do a live show on YouTube and LinkedIn with my friend and fellow MVP, Andy Honeycutt. Once a month, we do what's called 365 Deep Dive, which is we pick a topic and we go 2 hours deep into that topic. So it's not like a news show or a brush at things. We actually get in and build together for 2 hours. And sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it does. But that's, kind of the fun of it. And you can scan the QR code, find me on LinkedIn, or there's my 2 YouTube channels that I'm involved with. So what we're going to talk about today is a breakdown of kind of the agent environment or the landscape of agents in M365 Copilot. Then we're going to build an agent today. Juan was talking about the age of autonomous agents. That's what we're going to do. This is a level 200 section. So rather than the kind of basic answer something from a Q&A for me in an agent and have it just come from SharePoint, that's kind of too basic. We're going to do an autonomous agent. So we're going to have it trigger, we're going to have it do something, and then we're going to have it take an action as well. We're going to talk about sharing agents. This is something that my organization at EY is just getting started with, is how do we deal with the governance? How do we take things from sharing to a publishing perspective and kind of what the strategies are. And I'm going to share some of my own thinking about that. And then we'll do Q&A and we'll do the giveaway at the end. So let's jump right into it with understanding Copilot agents. So there's the word agent and agentic is kind of a hot buzzword right now in the industry. if you notice, like nobody ever said the word agentic. I never heard the word agentic. And then like OpenAI says something and uses the word agentic. And now it's like everybody's LinkedIn tagline is they're an expert in agentic AI, right? So overnight, everybody started talking about agents and, there's flavors of agents in everything. When we kind of scope in, we take that wide lens and we go down to just the M365 Copilot world, agents is kind of a marketing buzzword. And it's like, what are we talking about when we talk about the word agents? In the Microsoft world, there's the very beginning of agents. Whenever you get your Copilot license, you'll see the ability to create or get agents. When you get an agent in the sidebar, those are not an empty list right now. You'll get presented with a few things like the prompt coach, the career coach, idea coach, things like that. Those are created by Microsoft, and it's kind of to show the art of the possible or what can be done with agents. And what's cool is that those can serve as templates. So you can kind of reverse engineer them. I actually have in the references at the end, they've published all of the manifests to GitHub. So you can download those and see how does Microsoft write custom instructions for their agents. And it's interesting, it's written in like a markdown format. That was something that I didn't expect, but you can learn like how Microsoft designed these. So it will help you with crafting your own custom instructions. And then some of the things that Juan talked about, like interpreter, project manager, which is also in public preview, and then facilitator, those are Microsoft agent experiences that are built into the products themselves. You see that I've got a red line around this right now. I decided like in the last 30 seconds before I started to start a Teams meeting, and I'm using facilitator in this meeting to record what I'm saying, and I'm going to get the notes from that and see what it does. So we're using facilitator at EY, and it's available in public preview right now. Facilitator is really cool. Next, there's store-based agents that are from third parties. So this is things like Miro or Jira or SAP. These are partner-based. You'll find them in the store under the agent category, and you'll start to see those like fill out. Now, you can control access to those agents with regular Teams app policies. They're presented as apps in the Microsoft Teams App Store. So if you don't want people to see agents, you can control that with a policy, and you can turn them on one at a time as you do like risk assessment and things like that. If you don't have any Teams app policies, then check out one of the other sessions about developing your team app policy, because it'll probably get overwhelming as like thousands of companies all start building agents in the store trying to, get their land grab within Microsoft Teams. Then there's declarative agents. These allow people to kind of put on their citizen developer hat and create their own agent for their own needs. They can create that on a personal level, or they can have a great idea that they want to share within their team unit, and it can grow and become an idea that gets even larger. An example of this is I created an agent it was the third week of March is Neurodiversity Celebration Week. And we were talking about, they wanted me to do a presentation internally about how you can use Gen AI for like neurodiversity needs. So I started in Agent Builder and said, hey, I want you to act as an expert in inclusive design. I gave it a couple documents for inclusive design. And then I want you to score content for different neurodiversity needs. And I want you to do like a score of like 1 to 5, tell the user like what they can do to make it more accessible. So rather than like a lot of people think neurodiversity, think like autism spectrum disorder, but the thing with the agent is it expanded out and it did like dyslexia and anxiety and other things as well. So it kind of opened up the lens a little bit. And that agent that I created just for that presentation has now kind of turned into, they want to publish it broader and broader, So Agent Builder and declarative agents, they can start out really small, but they can kind of get away from you. If it's like really impressive and gets the right person excited, it can kind of get away from you a little bit. And we'll talk about governance, about what to do in those situations as it kind of grows up into the scale. Then you've got custom agents. And this is where you can get into like the pro dev area. So they're built entirely in Copilot Studio. You can do other types of orchestration and things like that. Today, inside of Agent Builder or inside of the declarative agents, you'll see when you're constructing your agent at the bottom, it'll say actions coming soon. So you can give it knowledge, you can give it a custom instruction set, but you can't tell it to go do something, or you can't make it fully autonomous. You have to kind of graduate up to Copilot Studio to do that. In the custom agent world, that's where you can do that fully autonomous. You can have it trigger, you can have it think about it, quote unquote think, as much as an AI actually thinks, but consider, do its reasoning, come up with a response, and then go do an action in some type of a third-party system as well. And then also what's different about custom agents versus declarative agents is a declarative agent is consumed entirely within Microsoft 365. So that's either inside of Microsoft 365 Teams or the Microsoft 365 Copilot chat. So it's within that bubble. It's licensed with the Copilot license, that $30 a month SKU. With custom agents in Copilot Studio, if you go that route, I think the projector like went to sleep or something. My laptop did not go to sleep. Let me unplug and replug. Inside of custom agents, though, you can also, is it going to come back? Okay, great. Yay. You can also deploy that beyond Microsoft 365 as well. So you can deploy it into like WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or embedded on a website as well. So there's other channels that you can configure outside of M365. So focusing on just inside the M365 world, there's different ways to create those declarative agents. There's three main ways. There's the agent builder, which you may have seen at like Microsoft Ignite or something like that, where you click create an agent, and then you can have a chat with Copilot where you describe what you want it to do. You talk about its capabilities. It'll say, is there anything I shouldn't talk about? Okay, well, here's what I want you to avoid. Is there any knowledge that you want me to have? You paste in some SharePoint links, things like that. What behavior does it want it to be? And then you build through that chat-based experience. There's agents in SharePoint, which comes from a SharePoint entry point. So if you go into SharePoint, any document library or any folder within your SharePoint, you can click create an agent, and it kind of narrows down its scope to only have that for its knowledge. And then you can configure it to give it custom instructions, to give it more knowledge. You can go up to 20 different sources. But something that's different here between these two, if I can show this, is inside of Agent Builder. This is kind of looks blurry, doesn't it, from here? You have SharePoint sites folders. You can also give it web content as well. So you can turn on a switch and it'll do Bing searches on the behalf of the user. And then you can connect it with Microsoft Graph connectors. So if you've got data in another place, you can build a custom connector, you can access it. Inside of agents with SharePoint, though, you'll notice that it's missing the web component. So if you start in SharePoint, you can't add on the web search component. And then if you go into Copilot Studio, you get that back, right? You can add on the web content, the connectors, as well as the sites as well. Another difference between these three options is how you share the agent. So if you're creating inside of Agent Builder, inside of a chat, then there's no approval process to share that with other people. You can either create a link that works with everybody in the organization, kind of like you can do with a file where you say anybody in Contoso can access this, and then copy it and you can post it on a channel internally. You can give access that way, or you can do like friends and family, right? You can put in certain people's name and give them access to it, but you're not publishing the agent, putting it in your internal store to be consumed by people that you don't know. Inside of SharePoint agents, it's controlled initially by who has access to the SharePoint site. So whenever you create an agent, it actually lives on the SharePoint site, and it's a .agent file. So you can share it like any other file inside of SharePoint. meaning that you can give people access to it that are on the SharePoint site or not within the SharePoint site. But by default, it's published within the confines of the site. A trick that I learned just a couple weeks ago is that you promote your agent from like draft mode to approved. When you approve it, it actually moves your agent to another place on the SharePoint. And I learned that the hard way because I was linking to a SharePoint agent and I had it like as a button on a SharePoint page. Check out my agent, it's really cool. And it was living in a folder on the document library. When I approved it, it pulls that agent file and it puts it in a folder called approved agents. And my button broke and I didn't realize it until people started telling me. So like before you present it on your SharePoint site, I would recommend that you approve it so that it lands where it's going to live and then you don't lose track of it. These agents can also be added to Teams chats. That's a really cool feature of SharePoint agents is you can click copy a link for Teams, put it into a group chat, and then you could actually add that as a participant into the group chat that you've got going. So anybody can mention it and invoke that agent, and then it just replies back, kind of like what Juan was showing in the facilitator demo where it was chatting, saying, hey, 15 minutes left, 5 minutes left. You can do that in any group chat. So if you fire up something in SharePoint, you can kind of do it that way. And then in Copilot Studio, this is where you're publishing agents. You're taking it to a new level where it actually goes into an integrated app approval workflow. Once that's approved by an administrator, and I'm going to show you like how to do that with my giveaway agent. Once it's approved, it actually shows up in the store for people to consume. So you're giving yourself, oh boy, I don't want to approve that. I'm presenting right now. Once that's approved though, it'll have like your developer name and your description and all of the stuff that you would have in like a storefront page. You kind of put in more information, and that's when we're going from sharing to publishing. It's a little bit, more serious of a situation. So the anatomy of a Copilot agent, the sum of its parts equals the Copilot agent. Today, I think we're kind of in the middle realm of most people consider an agent to be what in OpenAI, if you were in ChatGPT, you would call that a custom GPT. So back in the world, like I guess it was about a year and a half ago, we were all creating custom and bespoke GPTs, where I had one for like fatty liver disease. I had gotten diagnosed with fatty liver disease. So I built one that can help me. I can take a picture of like my, menu and be like, what should I eat for fatty liver disease? And it would go look at that and then come back. It's custom instructions and custom knowledge. That's where most people start, especially with like Agent Builder or something like that, is like, who are you? I want you to have a persona. You're a helpful HR assistant. You're going to help somebody onboard into the company or something like that. And then what does it know? It's either SharePoint sites, it's custom files that you can upload ad hoc. So if you got like a PDF with a bunch of policy information, you can add that. It doesn't have to be on a SharePoint site. You can click browse and then upload it. Also public websites as well. You can point it to a public website and that adds it to its knowledge set. Inside of Microsoft 365, you can do up to 20 of those. So it's not 20 individual documents. It's 20 of any combination of sites, files, links, or documents. So if you have a folder that has a bunch of documents in it, that's one thing. It's like a list of 20 URLs, basically. Then, as you build up, you kind of scale up your capabilities, we add actions on. And you heard a lot about actions at Microsoft Ignite last fall. That is, what does it do? So if you've got your agent that you're talking with, and it's kind of just really smart, and it's just giving you chat responses, you can bolt an action on at the end of it, and then now it can go update a record in your CRM, or it can go send an email, or do something automatic where it pokes out of the agent and go perform a deep action over in another place. On the front end of it, now you can get that fully autonomous where you add a trigger. So when does it wake up? When an email comes in to your proposals mailbox looking for a new quote, I want you to wake up the agent. That's your trigger. I want you to go look at the information, the menu of services we have, prepare a quote, and then send an email. That's the action. So when you stitch all of that together, that's a fully autonomous agent. And typically it goes from behaviors into like the trigger realm, and you have it actually do something in the real world. Okay, so now we're going to demo and hopefully do it in time, which is building a Teams Q&A agent. This is something that I think if you guys are admins in the environment, maybe you get a lot of like questions about Microsoft Teams that you've answered like 1,000 times before, and you created FAQs and you've got a knowledge base out there, but nobody looks for it. They just, oh, I saw you in like a Viva Engage live stream, so I sent you an email, to ask you my random question. So let's put an agent in front of that and kind of slow down that process a little bit. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a custom agent, because I want it to actually wake up whenever I get a question coming into a mailbox, and I want it to actually reply to the person and reply to them with an email. I don't want them to have to like go to Copilot, remember to open up this agent, then ask their question, because like nobody's actually going to do that. So I want it to just work in the background for the way that they're going to interact with me. The trigger is we're going to have a new email come in with a subject line that matches criteria. I'm just going to use like Teams question for my subject line. And then the instructions are it's going to answer end user queries, and I want it to answer in the form of an email. So that's kind of that prompt engineering, right? Is the format that you want it to be in. I want it to say like, dear first name, here's your answer. Thanks, Teams bot, or whatever I'm going to call it. The knowledge is we've got that FAQ. We've got information that we've collated as a fictional Teams support organization. So I'm going to feed that in, but I'm also going to turn on web access because new things are changing all the time within Teams. So I want it to be able to look out to like the Microsoft documentation and be able to use that as well. And then the action is it's going to generate an answer. It's going to email the person right back. And then we're going to actually publish that. I'm going to show you from another end user perspective how that works. So we can see here, this is my knowledge set. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you guys can see a little bit better. I got just random. I used Copilot to give me like 8 FAQs. And like, what's the problem? What causes it? And then what's the typical fix? So I've got that like grouped up into an Excel spreadsheet. That's all we're going to look at. And then I'm going to give it the web to look at something a little bit more difficult. Now, inside of here, this is Copilot Studio. So copilotstudio.microsoft.com. When you land in Copilot Studio, you might go here to create. This is where you diverge between a declarative agent or a custom agent. If you click create right here and you click a new agent, you are creating a custom agent, not a declarative agent. If you want to create a declarative agent, what you do is you go to agents first. Then you're going to like double click into Microsoft 365, and that's where you're going to create your agent. So there's kind of like 2 branching paths here. And I want you to realize that before you go start creating like, I'm going to go easy. I'm going to create declarative agents. You might like, it's like taking a wrong turn and you end up like stuck in the mud. Like I just clicked create and now I'm in like hard mode, right? I'm in custom Copilot mode. So that's kind of a pitfall that people can run into. But I am actually going to take the hard mode and I'm going to create my agent because I want to trigger an action. I want to make it autonomous. So this is that agent builder where I can describe what I want it to do. And I can say like, you are a Teams, Microsoft Teams expert. You will answer user questions about Teams functionality and help them fix their issues, right? So that's the start of the custom instructions. On the side, it's understanding about that, and it's going to recommend a name. It's going to start building out a description, custom instructions. I don't have to do all of that from scratch if I want to. So like, okay, the agent is called Teams Expert. We're going to refine how should it handle situations where they're experiencing technical difficulties. For example, should it provide troubleshooting steps? Yes, provide step-by-step instructions, provide resources if available, right? So I'm kind of adding a little bit more to it. And then you're going to see that this section over here on the side got even bigger because it's adding to the custom instruction set. At any point in time, you can skip to configure right here at the top. And once I do that, I can give it a custom icon. I can give it a description, all of that cool stuff. It even added some starter prompts. But right now, it doesn't have any knowledge. It's just going to use like its trained LLM knowledge set, which who knows how old that is. It's probably using up to GPT-4o, so it's like fairly recent. But I want to make sure that it can go, out to like up-to-date information. So first, I'm going to add SharePoint because I've got my company's own FAQs. That's in this Jolly Roger Java. That Excel spreadsheet was in this default document library. So we're going to add that. We're going to add that into knowledge. And then some other knowledge here, if I do like, what is going on with that projector? Microsoft Learn and Microsoft Teams Docs. Okay. Let me unplug and replug. Yeah, right. It's my Mac. I just got a brand new Mac too. I've been like live streaming off of like a MacBook Air for a while, and I just got like a fire breathing MacBook Pro. So, okay. So, we've got like the learn.microsoft.com. So I'm just going to give it all of learn.microsoft.com, learn.microsoft.com. We're going to add that in. And then, sure, I'm going to say that I own it. Why not? Okay, so I've got the website as well as the documentation, and then I'm going to create that agent here. And once it sets up, then it's going to give me a little bit more of like a landing spot for my agent where I can configure other things like actions and triggers and stuff like that. So you can see across the top, we've got knowledge, topics, actions, channels. That's where I can publish outside of M365 if I wanted to. There's those general instructions. And now I've got some new things. I can add actions and I can add triggers to it after I've created that base, like kind of, basic level agent. And then there's those starter prompts as well. And it is not published, so nobody can use it yet. Oh my gosh. Plug in again. So what we're going to do is we're going to add an action and a trigger onto it once it actually pokes up. Here's something, another gotcha is in order to add triggers, you have to turn on this orchestration box. It'll tell you if you try to add a trigger, but I'm going to enable that feature. It's going to save it. It's not going to take a few minutes. Yeah, it took like 10 seconds. And then we're going to add a trigger onto the front of it. So what I'm going to do is when a new email arrives, you want to look underneath that and pick Office 365 Outlook, because there's another one that's called just Outlook. That's like consumer, like MSA Outlook. Pick Office 365. It's going to connect to my environment. And then I'm just going to look in my inbox. I'm going to do this like nice and easy. If something comes into my inbox, and if it has a subject filter of Teams question, then it's going to use the body of that in its like prompt. It's going to take the body of the email and ingest it as part of the prompt flow. So what's happening in the background here is it is actually creating a Power Automate flow for me. So we were talking beforehand here that he's like, I'm not an expert in Power Automate. You actually don't have to touch Power Automate. You could if you wanted to, because I could actually go to, there's my trigger. I could actually open it in Power Automate and I could add other steps to it. If I want to like capture every question in a SharePoint list or something like that, I could add another block to it and I could like just stay within that Power Automate flow. But I need to test this trigger. So it's sitting here waiting for an email to come in to match that criteria. So what we're going to do, I'm going to open up an incognito or in private browser. I'm going to go to outlook.office.com. And everybody look away. End user. Come on. End user. Joe end user is my my user right here. So I'm going to copy his username. We're going to log in anonymously. And copy his password. Don't stay signed in. Okay. Once this loads up, we're going to do a new email to me, my own user, john@365deepdive.com. And then I have a Teams question. Why is Teams so slow on my MacBook Pro? So we're going to send that in. And then if I go back over to my, if I go back over here and start refreshing this incessantly, it's going to come up in about a minute with a email has arrived with a timestamp on it. And that's when I can test this trigger, and then we can watch the agent step through its process. There it is. An email came in. I caught it. So we're going to start testing. And then what's going to happen here is it's going to open up this visual activity map. So the session has started. It's now searching its knowledge and reasoning over what the question was. Why is Teams slow? It's really quick. It's looking in those sources. It looked on the public website and the SharePoint document. It did not find Teams performance issues in my document, so it went out to the web. It found info on learn.microsoft.com. That's the output. So it's telling me where it came from. Now it responded in the chat because I haven't done an action yet, right? So, hey, it can be slow due to, high CPU or other common issues. You can turn off GPU hardware acceleration. Here's some things you can do to make Teams, a little bit faster. And it links out to its resources like I asked it to do. So that's awesome. It is working. Now we're going to add an action onto the end of this. So we've got our trigger. Now we want it to actually email the person back because they're not going to go to a chat. They're not going to, seek out the agent. So now we're going to send an email for our action. And again, see how it says outlook.com right there? Don't use that one. We're going to use Office 365 Outlook. Get that going. And then it's going to connect to my Office 365. Again, this is like where what Juan was talking about, Samantha Reed, how you might, create a user and Intra ID and give it a persona and stuff. You could create this with that user account. So it uses that mailbox, things like that. I'm going to do something that's going to give me a warning, which is I'm going to just use my authentication to the mailbox. And then you can see that it says, hey, you probably shouldn't do that because anybody who uses this agent is going to use your mailbox. But I just want the demo to work. The other thing that you can do is look at the inputs and outputs, what's coming in. So it's going to try to figure out the to line based off of who sent it in. It's going to try to figure out a subject based off the context of the body. And then the body is going to be the response that comes in. This is another thing that you can do is ask the user before running or allow it to use this action. You can also choose to wait a little bit if you want to. And this is where if you don't want it to just email people right away, but you want to kind of stack up those emails, you could tell it not to run automatically, but instead it'll just prepare that. And then you could go take the action manually if you want to. But I want it to run autonomously and just work for me. So we're adding the action. And now we're bringing an email. We're sending an email. To make this actually work, I have to hit publish. So we're going to publish this agent. There's that risk that's oh my gosh, you're using your own credentials. That's fine. We're going to publish this. And then at the bottom, it's going to tell me the published status. Come on. Usually this takes 1 to 3 minutes, something like that, to actually publish the agent. So at the bottom, you can see that it's publishing. And then right here, we'll see availability options in the bottom corner of that little widget. And that's where I'd actually get a link to it to install it and test. So I could start doing that. Okay, it's published now. So it's available in the my fake user, and I send myself an email. This would be like your shared mailbox in your scenario. I have a Teams question. I joined a meeting and my microphone is grayed out. How do I enable my mic so I can talk, right? This is a common thing, and it's actually a little bit more difficult. It's not, you were just muted, so just unclick it. It's like, well, though, there's a reason why it's disabled, not just muted. So that those reasons could be like permissions, right? The person could have created the meeting and then not allowed microphone. There could be that you have to give explicit consent before you enable your microphone. Like it could be a number of different things. So if we go over here to, I think it might be under activity. Hopefully we'll see it actually work here in a moment. There it is. So it came in, it was automated. And if we open it up, I think it'll give me my activity. So it already looked at it. And again, it wasn't in my Excel spreadsheet. It went out to the web and responded back. So hopefully here in a moment, we'll have an autonomous email from our helpful bot. I'm waiting for like a sync button over here like I have on my Mac, but I forgot I'm on the web. Not there quite yet. Another thing we can do is I can look at like Outlook on my device and see if it sent an email. Okay, so it hasn't sent the email yet. It hasn't taken the action yet, but hopefully we'll in a few minutes. You can see though, this was my test like yesterday when I was doing this, is you actually see it as an email that goes out to that person. So it sent it to my other mailbox because I was just going John to John, which can kind of confuse it a little bit. Like I don't recommend using the same email address because you don't know if you're in like a circular reference. The challenge I've had with this, because like I'm still we're all kind of new to this, but one thing I've had is it just puts it in a big block, and that's something that you might put in your custom instructions is like, I want you to put proper line breaks in. I want you to have like the salutation. I want you to have the body. And then I want you to have, put paragraphs in between or something like that. Maybe tell it to format it in Markdown or something like that. So you could kind of play with the formatting a little bit. But I don't have the email quite yet. And rather than waiting for paint to dry, why don't we move on a little bit and we'll check at the end and see if it actually executed that action or not. So that's my little demo of building like that autonomous agent end to end. And we did it in less than 10 minutes, I think. Now, sharing and publishing, you saw that I published the agent and then I didn't actually go install it from the store or something like that because I was automated. When we're talking about declarative agents, there's three main paths here for sharing your agent. If you created your agent in the agent builder, then you can generate a sharing link. So I'm going to show you how to do that because it's actually a little bit confusing. So we're going to go down here to Copilot, office.com/chat. And it's a little bit unintuitive. Like I've created all of these agents. How do I share this agent? Because it just says that I can uninstall it. You actually have to go into the create an agent, the agent builder. Then you get back to your agent. Let me highlight my cursor. There we go. You get back to your agent right here at the top. And dang it, I didn't have anything in this list. Let me switch to my EY account and show you guys where that's at because I've got a whole bunch of them over here. So if I go into Copilot and then we go to create an agent, and then my agent's up at the top. This is where you'll edit and share your agents. So if you're like, I want to go back and make a change, that's how you edit your agent in the builder. It's also how you share it. So you can generate a link for anybody in the organization, just specific people or only you. Then just like anything else, you copy and you paste it wherever you're going to send it. So that's the first path, is generating a link. The second one is your SharePoint agent. whenever you create that agent, it's going to live on that SharePoint site. You could directly link to that agent, but what you're going to want to do instead is you're going to want to go into Copilot within the SharePoint site. This is the little built-in agent, but if you drop it down, you'll see other agents that you've created. So you'll like find your FAQ updater agent. This is where you click the ... and you would set it as approved. That's what moves it to that approved folder. Then once you've approved that agent, you can also, once it finishes, you can also set it as the site default. So now rather than it going to like just the generic like uninstructed bot, you can now have your custom bespoke SharePoint agent be the new default for that whole site. So whenever anybody goes to the site and they click on the Copilot button at the top, it'll open up your custom SharePoint agent. So that's sharing that, and it's available for the site users. You can share beyond the site if you share the .agent file, just like any other OneDrive sharing. You right-click and hit share, put in anybody's name, or you can get a link to it in Teams chat. So if I click that ... copy link for Teams, I'm able to share, probably because I just approved it. Once you do that, you'll get a link that you can go paste into a group chat, and it'll add it to the chat for you. Then your declarative agent, kind of like what we built here, this is where you can publish something. So you configure that in those availability options. Every time I see that flash, I'm just going to unplug and replug my laptop. It's just automatic at this point. So to show you how that works real quickly, I've got my giveaway bot. This is what we're going to use to do the giveaway for these 3 items. And I told it to be a game show host, and you're going to assist and respond with excitement. I want you to look at this spreadsheet, and I want you to pick a row at random, and always be random, never pattern. Don't go in order, play fair. But I need to like actually publish this, right? I need to do something with it. Right now it's published, but nobody in my tenant can see it. What I have to do is I have to go into availability options, and then I feel like there's like a ringing every time I talk a little bit. Sorry about that. I can share it with individual people, and I can like share by name, or I can click show to everyone in the organization. This is a little bit dangerous, but fortunately there's an approval process. So if I click that and then click yes, it is now sending the agent to my administrator to approve it, to show it in the Copilot store. So once that's done, where does that go? Well, now I put in my admin hat. I go to the Microsoft Admin Center. It is under settings, under integrated apps. So it's going to be an app in your tenant. It's not in the Teams apps area. It's in the top level tenant apps. Under requested apps, that's where it's going to show up. So now I've got this, it's pending. If I open that up, then we can go in here and I can review what it's about. This is where you would like capture information. It's got a description. I can view the details around it, like what knowledge is in it. It'll tell you like what actions, like what did they put in the agent, so you can get a little bit of information about it. Are there any like security concerns or anything like that? And then I'm going to hit publish right here and hit confirm. Now, if I wanted anybody in 365 Deep Dive to get this agent, they would go into Copilot. They would click Get Agents, which opens up, should open up a store, but I've been having issues with it lately. Let me go into Teams and show you how to do it from there. Let's go 365 Deep Dive. Then, and under apps, I'm going to have built for my organization. And it's not showing up quite yet. Under agents, there it is. Comms vNext giveaway helper. I could now add that, and I'm installing it to my like user profile. And then if I open it up, it's going to open up in Copilot. And now I've got my giveaway buddy. I could pin it to my sidebar, stuff like that. So that's the publishing workflow. If you like watch that back on YouTube, whenever they publish it in a few weeks, there's like step-by-step how to, publish, where to go to approve it, how people install it, things like that. So that's a little bit like, you're going out of the realm of like, if you're lucky enough to find this link or somebody knows what the link is and they send it to you I want to actually like advertise this in my organization and have it in the store, you're publishing at that point. Governance and life cycle management. This is like the hot topic that probably most of you are here to see, which is like, all right, I've been building agents. I've had some success, some failures, things are working okay. It's pretty immature, but how do I govern this and start thinking about it? Surprise, surprise, Microsoft is a little bit immature in this space, as they, typically are. They're building exciting end user features, but like, how do I monitor it? And how do I know like success rate and things like that? That's all like what they call fast follows, right? So, they're getting around to it. They're learning and building as they go. Something that I like to think about, this is a graphic that is not stolen from Gartner, but Gartner inspired me in a discussion with them about thinking in terms of like a map strategy. Or another thing that I've been developing internally is like a mountain, agent mountain, where at the bottom of the mountain, it's very accessible, right? Beginners, newbies, they can access the base camp and they can be in the bottom of the mountain, right? And that's where you have the most agents, right? People are going to make agents for like the dumbest stuff, but they're only going to be for them. And it's just going to be like super, low risk, low scope type of things. So it's very accessible. As you go up the mountain and you get to like, the tundra line and things like that, you need like certifications, you need training, you need special permits and approvals. So as we go up the mountain in complexity, there also by nature of it is there's going to be fewer and fewer of those agents that you actually manage, right? It's similar in this way. If you start at the bottom corner, this is like everybody making their like lame agent that just, looks at an FAQ and they use it personally, versus I go up to like, I'm sharing with like 150 people. Well, it's a little bit more serious. We want to talk about it, versus at EY sharing with 460,000 people. You're in like the red zone right now. Like you definitely got to talk to somebody before we just approve your app. It's scope, like how broad is your audience and what's your, internal appetite for that, versus complexity also. Are you having a bunch of triggers, a bunch of actions and things like that? So consider that mapping, right? Try to think, where would I plot this agent on that graphic whenever you're creating your agent, you're thinking about sharing it. On that low end, I prefer a light touch, Don't stifle people, don't like restrict people from creating, because if you have no creation process, they're going to go outside and they're going to do shadow IT and they're going to create agents. They just might be chat GPT, custom GPTs, because you didn't give them a path, to get into the cage that you want them to be in. As you go up that scale, you need more approvals. It's pretty immature from a Microsoft standpoint, where that approval workflow that I showed you, that's the only approval workflow. It's like, I kind of look through it. I can see who sent it to me, but it's not like, a manifest and I'm like, have like a database of all of my agents and why I decided to approve them. So what I would recommend, even if you're going to put it in a spreadsheet, or if you're going to get fancy and create like a power app for this or something like that, create something to capture some information. Even if Microsoft isn't like forcing you to do it on your own. So you start building the framework for it. Some things I would definitely capture is who the owners are. Only one person submits an agent, but if it's going to be like broader scope and that person, I don't like saying that person gets hit by a bus, but I like to say, if that person wins the lottery and doesn't work for your company anymore, what's going to happen with that agent? Who's going to own it? So require more than one owner for your agent, just like you would do for a team or a SharePoint site. Figure out what the business purpose is, right? Make them write a business justification, even if you're going to approve it anyway. Make them think that, it's highly scrutinized, so that they spend some effort on it. And then document like what data it's looking at. Maybe you have to engage your risk team and make them look at it. Maybe you want to test it out for a while, something like that. Put some type of process in front of it, even if you're just in the background writing it down in an Excel spreadsheet. At least you've got some records so that whenever Microsoft does build it, you can go load that data into their nice fancy tool that they build for you. Start thinking also about lifecycle management. Again, It's kind of a little bit immature right now. There's not a reporting on how often these agents are used or what they accessed or success versus failure rate, things like that. But Microsoft is building a lot of those reports, and they're working with customers to figure out those needs. Start writing down. We started doing this at EY. We started writing down on paper what our requirements are. If you could have anything, anything in a report, what would you have? We started making our wish list and we started prioritizing it. So if Microsoft comes to you and wants your opinion, you've already got it and you're not just thinking about it like on the fly. Think in both terms, I would recommend, of what do I want as an admin, but also what would I want as a developer? Because a lot of us were like in the admin world and it's like, I want to control things and I want to see the whole environment, but also think in terms of like, what does the person want? Because if the developer, you got all these admin controls and everything is great there, but like nobody's going to build anything if like the individual reporting sucks. So think from their perspective so you can advocate for your users, and start thinking about how you're going to sunset your inactive agents. So we're going to see like an explosion of agents. Microsoft calls it a constellation of agents. That's their new word for sprawl, I guess. But you're going to have sprawl, and you're going to want to think about like, if an agent isn't used in 90 days, do I want to reach out to the owners? If it's not used for 6 months, do I want to, delete it? Things like that, so that you don't have like a bunch of duplicate agents everywhere. My opinion, governance should support your creation, not stifle it. So like make it available to people, get people to start creating, even if they can't publish it to every person in your organization. Allow them to start creating for themselves so you can start like baking out some of these use cases and thinking about like, oh, let's take this and I want to like kind of co-opt it and sponsor it and make it, like one of the first agents that IT provides, so you can show that art possible. Also consider building a community of your creators. Create like a community of excellence or a center of excellence, so that people can find each other building agents and they can share ideas, things like that. Depending on your organizational size, you could do that in a Microsoft team, or you could do that in a Viva Engage community as well. At EY, we're much larger than a single team can hold. So our developer community is in Viva Engage. We just got like tens of thousands of people in it. And it is separate from our Copilot community. Our general Copilot users, I like having less communities rather than more communities, but in this instance, I would recommend that you have 2 communities, because otherwise the nerdy developer talk is going to take over the Copilot group. And likewise, your citizen developers are going to get annoyed with people asking like where the Copilot button is in PowerPoint. So like maybe keep those separate, because like they're 2 different types of person. But think about creating a community for your people. A couple of resources to leave you with is the Microsoft documentation. There are declarative agents and agent FAQ for those declarative agents. There's also Microsoft Mechanics. I've got 2 good videos or playlists for my friend Jeremy Chapman on the overall Copilot control, as well as those agents in Agent Builder. And then a couple of Copilot Studio playlists for my friend Lisa Crosby and Daniel Christian, fellow MVPs out there as well. These slides will be available when it's published to the ComVNext YouTube channel. So you'll be able to like download these slides. Also, I've got a QR code at the end, so you can scan it, download them now, and get these links available as well. Those declarative agent samples I told you about, so like prompt builder, idea builder, things like that. On Microsoft Learn, you can download those manifests. I've got a link to all of those manifests for you as well, so you can start learning how Microsoft creates instructions. Any questions while I leave the giveaway up and you guys can scan that? Go ahead up here in the front.
So, nice. Fun.
Yeah.
And then,
yeah.
And the second question is,
What is?
how did very provides?
I don't know on the second one. I would have to defer that to somebody like maybe Daniel Christian or Lisa Crosby, because they're kind of more in the Power Platform specifically. On licensing, the first question was about licensing agents. So when you create the creation of agents in Agent Builder and SharePoint, that is available to everybody with a Copilot license, that $30 a month M365 Copilot SKU. That is available to all of them. You can control whether or not it's visible, but by licensing, it's available. Also, the consumption of those declarative agents. And if you build a custom agent and the channel you publish to is Microsoft Teams and Copilot, if you're in the M365 system, that $30 a month SKU covers all of the consumption of that agent. So that agent I built, if they're doing it in Copilot chat, that's covered under the $30 a month. If I publish that custom agent on like WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger or something, then you get into consuming message packs. And those message packs cost, I think it's like 2,000. It's like a package of 2,000 messages per package. Then there's a new thing called pay-as-you-go. And pay-as-you-go basically allows you a path to give Copilot actions to people who have the free Microsoft Copilot, it used to be called Bing Chat Enterprise. Then it was called Microsoft Copilot with Enterprise Data Protection. It's had like 5 names already. That one, you're not using a $30 a month SKU, but you can publish that using pay-as-you-go, and then it consumes those message packs, or it consumes at about 1 cent per message. The trick with that, though, is that messages are not one-to-one. So like if I send a thing in and it responds back, if it used its LLM knowledge and it didn't think very hard, it was one message. If it had to go look at knowledge, it's something like 5 messages. If it had to look at its knowledge and craft a generative response and like use an action, it's like 20 messages. So it's a little bit weird. The type of thing that comes back might be like 30 messages instead of 1. Daniel Christian has a video specifically about how to forecast that. So that Daniel Christian YouTube channel, check that out. You have a question, I think?
Yeah. When you're in developer community,
Yep.
you've got all those people that get a bunch.
Yeah.
That are all developing stuff. How do you coordinate so that I go, hey, I got this idea. I've seen other people, 1,000 of them already had that.
Yeah.
Tracking that maturity, all that create.
Right now we have a community. So it's really light touch. We also, EY is separated into service lines like tax and consulting and things. Each of them have their own center of excellence, and they have like a very strict service line guidelines for their stuff. So they will, have a little bit more scrutiny over it. Some of the service lines have created a Power App to like actually do an app registration. So there's an agent list or database, and then they're telling people to go look at that first to make sure something doesn't exist. So it'd be kind of meta circulars, like you might create an agent about agents that looks at that list and sees like if something exists. That might be an idea, is you can create an agent for agents. And then be careful because you'll have Skynet before too long. Because other calls like here, Jeff.
So you're talking about usage tracking. Like how to,
Yeah.
it's on a file, all the agents usage.
Right now, the basic usage about like how many agents you have, I think it's in the Power Platform Admin Center. It's in the Power Platform Admin Center. It's very, very basic. Like, what's the name? Was it, who created it? And then I think like last used or number of uses, things like that. But you can't really get too deep into it. It's kind of like a list of it, and it doesn't really like give you insights into like what it's doing. So,
Yeah.
that
It's not. That's pretty.
I'm not sure the answer on that one. Once they do, though, I think you might see things like TieGraph and other, partners start building like dashboards and stuff. But I haven't heard any production partnership out of that yet. So, yeah.
What data it's accessing when the doc.
Yes. Yeah. In the audit, you would see that at the purview level. And also you'd be able to control that. So like sensitivity levels and just regular like privacy and privileges. If a person doesn't have access to that file on that SharePoint, the agent won't mention it for them because it does a privacy check. when using it. So you're not actually training the agent. You're still using RAG or retrieval augmented generation. It's just grounding data that's used. Yeah. And then there's one more at the very back. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Was it right? Still work. I mean, now as like text, sure. All us.
That one I'm not sure about. I don't know if it's like if you have to put in like regex, to do like your ORs and stuff, or if you can put like different pairs and quotes or something like that. It's not generative.
Weird.
Yeah. If somebody had that, I'd have to do more testing to see like if it would skip it or if like it would consider that, because it's the action or the trigger itself is not generative. So I don't think it's looking at every single one to see whether or not. We'd have to explore that a little bit more. Yeah. So before I leave you, because we're like a little bit late, I want to check out the users here. Actually, no. I want to say, let's do the giveaway. How many people submitted? List out their names. Is anyone in there more than once? Did anybody cheat? Oh, sorry. I forgot to mention the spreadsheet. Oh my gosh. Did it not work? I've got 20 responses.
Yeah.
It didn't sync yet. Okay, great.
And line timed out here before talking about all these. Yep.
Awesome. Okay. My agent failed. So give me 3 random numbers between, what was that one? It was like 11 and something. 12 and 41. 12 and 41. Good grief. It worked when I was in the keynote. It was working.
But now, I'll try it again.
Oh my goodness. You know what, Copilot?
Yes.
You're killing me. You're killing me, Smalls. All right. 3 random number, 20, 32, and 16. So number 20 is ID 20 is Joseph Pruzinski. You? What do you want? Do you want the dock or the earbuds?
A lot. Dock.
The dock? Okay. You can unpack this and fit it in your luggage a little bit easier if you flew.
Okay.
If you flew, but if you're local, then congratulations. What was the other numbers? It was 32. So 32 is Mary Beth Kirk.
Yes.
Awesome. You get headphones. And then number 16, Jeff Whelans, number 16. Cool. All right. I'm up and grab your things. So thank you guys for attending.